like Lamar Jackson.
LJ, one-of-a-kind type player.
Once-in-a-lifetime talent we witness daily.
Nobody better than Lamar.
The NFL regular season is where players become stars, and first big contracts are made. But if you want to ascend to the highest tier, well, you gotta deliver in the playoffs as well. That is where legends are born.
This is behind Cooper, who brought it in, pitched it back to Allen, who's gonna go to the goal line!
But here's the thing. Every single year, we see guys light it up from September through December, only to completely vanish when the lights shine brightest in January.
Roll, flip it, got it! Oh, the ball was dropped!
It's like clockwork. You've got players who look like MVPs when the schedule's friendly, but come playoff time, they shrink. So, how about we look around the NFL and break down at those players who just can't seem to match their regular season dominance when the postseason comes around, aka regular season studs that are playoff duds. Dak Prescott, QB, Dallas Cowboys. It shouldn't come as a surprise that Dak Prescott's name is at the top of this list. I mean, during the regular season, Prescott puts up numbers that keep him in the MVP conversation. I mean, at least he does in the throwaway games against weaker competition. He'll carve up bad defenses, hang 4 touchdowns on a divisional rival, the one in last place, and looks every bit like a franchise quarterback. Even in years we've seen the Cowboys win at least 12 games and the hype machine kicks in, and suddenly you got people talking about Dallas as the team to beat. And yet, he always seems to come up short. You see, once the playoffs roll around, every single time, the script completely flips. Prescott turns into a completely different quarterback. The turnovers pile up, the decision-making crumbles, and that same offense that looked unstoppable in October looks stuck in the mud in January. It's not like Dak doesn't have the weapons. CeeDee Lamb is a top 5 wideout, the defensive line has been very sturdy, and he's had more than enough to work with. The problem is when the moment calls for elite play, he just hasn't delivered. Think back to his performance against Green Bay a couple of years back. That was downright embarrassing. So, until Prescott is actually able to flip that script completely, Dallas is stuck living in football purgatory. Lamar Jackson, QB, Baltimore Ravens. For years, Lamar Jackson has been the regular season cheat code. Nobody in the NFL tilts the field quite like him. He's the guy defenses game plan for all week and still can't stop. One snap, he's torching you with his legs. The next, he's dropping a dime over the middle. And by the end of the Sunday afternoon, he has racked up over 300 yards and 3 scores without even breaking a sweat. And he's gotten his flowers with 2 MVPs to prove just how dominant he can be from September to January. But here's the ugly truth. That magic has not quite translated to the postseason. Lamar has been to the dance multiple times, yet the Ravens keep leaving early. Too many one-and-done runs, too many games where the offense sputters and looks ordinary at best. And it's not just the box score, it's the feel of the moment. You watch him in the regular season and think, this guy can beat absolutely anybody. You watch him in January and, well, you start to wonder if he can weather the storm when everything's on the line. Once the pressure cranks up, the turnovers creep in, the passing rhythm vanishes, and the Ravens' explosive offense suddenly looks like it is running on fumes. Now, to be fair, some of that blame falls on his supporting cast. Injuries, inconsistent receivers, questionable game plans. It hasn't all been on him. But at the end of the day, the greats rise above all of that. And Lamar hasn't. At least not yet. Khalil Mack, Edge, Los Angeles Chargers. Khalil Mack is one of those guys whose resume screams Canton. Defensive Player of the Year, perennial All-Pro, double-digit sack seasons littered throughout his career. Heck, just last year in 2023, he posted a ridiculous 17 sacks and 88 pressures, ranking among the NFL's best edge rushers well into his 30s. You don't just stumble into these numbers. He was still wrecking offensive lines on a weekly basis, but here's the problem. When it comes to January football, that production falls off a cliff. Across 5 career playoff games, Mack has only managed 3 sacks and has never been that consistent game record that teams need when everything is on the line. He's had stretches where he simply disappears, and that's not what you expect from someone who has dominated in every other aspect of his career. As he turns 34, Father Time might finally be catching him too, meaning that he's run out of time to rewrite history here. Mack will have to hope that he can capitalize on some Jim Harbaugh magic and get over the hump before it is all said and done. Mark Andrews, TE, Baltimore Ravens. If you only watched Mark Andrews from September through December, you'd probably rank him right behind Travis Kelce in the conversation for best tight end in the NFL. He's been Lamar Jackson's safety blanket for years, a red zone nightmare, a chain mover, and a 3-time Pro Bowler who routinely puts up somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 yards in a season. When Lamar needs a big play on 3rd and 7, Andrews is always the guy who's bailed him out. However, when the calendar flips to January, well, the drop-off is a bit staggering. Across 6 postseason appearances from 2018 through 2024, Andrews has just 29 catches for 315 yards and not a single touchdown catch. That is barely 3 grabs a game, with defenses completely erasing him in the biggest moments. The contrast is glaring. He is the classic player who looks unstoppable all fall, but suddenly turns invisible when the lights shine brightest. At this point, it's fair to ask if Mark Andrews is a regular season superstar rather than a postseason gamer, especially after that horrendous drop at the end of last year's playoff game. As dominant as he's been from September through week 18, his playoff resume reads like a role player's, and until he proves otherwise, well, he's just gonna have to own that. Rasul Douglas. Since 2021, his 14 interceptions rank him among the league's elite ball hawks, and his 45 passes defended in that span show just how sticky he can be in coverage. He has dared opposing quarterbacks to get sloppy, and man, he always makes them pay. Well, at least in the regular season. Because, unfortunately, he has not been able to generate the same results in the playoffs. The interceptions dry up, the splash plays vanish, and instead of looking like a difference maker, he starts looking, well, ordinary, sometimes worse. In fact, he hasn't recorded a single pick, and he's notched just 33 tackles and 2 pass deflections in his 11 playoff appearances. Yikes. Justin Herbert, QB, Los Angeles Chargers. There have been stretches where Justin Herbert looks like a quarterback a video game developer dreamed up. Rocket arm, capable of generating effortless velocity, and can penetrate windows most guys won't even try. From September to December, he'll give you those plays only a handful of humans can do every single week. Numbers pop, the highlights trend, and the feeling that this is the year that the Chargers finally break through. But this is Justin Herbert that we're talking about, and when the going gets tough, so does he. Think about that wildcard meltdown in Duval. Up 27-0, the Chargers had the Jaguars dead to rights. The defense was gift-wrapping takeaway after takeaway, and Herbert had ample chances to put a bow on it. But instead of stepping on the throat, the offense turtled. Checkdowns led to stalled drives and an eventual collapse. The kind of conservative, jittery football that invites a collapse, and, well, that lives with you forever. While Herbert's talent is undeniable, that game against Jacksonville didn't just dent his resume, it defined the conversation. That is, until he rewrites it with some meaningful postseason performances. Stefon Diggs, WR, New England Patriots. It's wild to think back to when Stefon Diggs was once the guy who delivered one of the most iconic playoff moments of the past decade, the Minneapolis Miracle. A walk-off touchdown that instantly put him in NFL folklore and cemented him as a big game player. And yet, here we are. 2025, and the conversation around Diggs feels almost unrecognizable. His last 3 seasons in Buffalo weren't just frustrating, they were downright brutal. The Bills kept getting deep into January, and yet the further the lights shined, the dimmer Diggs looked. From 2021 to 2023, he played in 6 playoff games and totaled 289 yards and no touchdowns, which is a far cry from the guy that Buffalo thought they were getting when they brought him in from Minnesota. Nothing like a string of playoff exits where stat lines looked like afterthoughts to drive a wedge between you and a team. Fans went from defending him as the ultimate gamer to openly asking if the Bills could even count on him anymore. Last year in Houston was a lost season for Diggs with the injury, and now he's in New England, a team desperate for playmakers, but nowhere near Buffalo's ceiling. And with it looking like his focus is elsewhere off the field, well, it's hard to imagine that we will ever see that version of Diggs ever again. Leonard Williams, DT, Seattle Seahawks. For a decade now, Leonard Williams has been one of those guys that you circle on the scouting report every single week. He's the kind of defensive tackle who can wreck a game plan in the trenches, long arms, violent hands, and the motor to get into the backfield, whether it's collapsing the pocket or stuffing the run. He's made a career out of being disruptive in September through December. But, oh boy, he has barely been able to scratch the surface come playoff time. And when he has, well, it hasn't been pretty. No sacks, sacks and just 6 tackles in his lone playoff appearance with the Giants back in 2022. And now, the Seahawks think that he's going to be a critical part of their post-Pete Carroll rebuild. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm a bit skeptical there. Jimmy Garoppolo, QB, Los Angeles Rams. Jimmy G might be one of the most polarizing quarterbacks of his generation. On the surface, the resume looks great. Multiple trips to the NFC Championship game, a Super Bowl appearance, and a career-winning percentage as a starter that stacks up against some of the league's elites. This is a guy that is over 20 games above 500 for his career. That's nothing to sneeze at. But when the playoffs come around and more is asked of him, he has never been able to answer the bell, even with all of the talent that he has around him in San Francisco. Not to mention his dubious defining moment during the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. With the Niners up 20-10 in the fourth quarter, the Lombardi Trophy within reach, and Jimmy G had his shot to shut everybody up and close that game out. Emmanuel Sanders gets behind the defense on a would-be game-sealing deep ball, and Jimmy flat out misses him. That is the throw that quarterbacks make to etch their name into history. Instead, it's the throw that Jimmy will never live down. Since then, it's been injuries, inconsistency, and a revolving door of opportunities, first with the Raiders and now with the Rams. He isn't slotted to be the starter, but he'll play an important role behind an aging Matt Stafford. And yet still, he'll need a few breaks to go his way if he ever wants to rewrite his legacy. But hey, which NFL player do you think has the biggest contrast between their regular season and postseason identity? Who do you think we got right here? Was there anyone that we may have missed? Let us know in the comments section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, then clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.